One of the great debates being held in Australian politics at the moment is between the major political parties on the one hand and the crossbench senators on the other. Malcolm Turnbull can't do anything in the Parliament without the support of the crossbench senators, and they're a disparate bunch. There's a growing view amongst them, though, that Australia needs some form of anti-corruption body, a federal body to mirror the work being done, with mixed results at state level. Now, no one could argue that the state-based anti-corruption bodies are absolutely perfect. They're not. Some of them are a work in progress, some of them are being pulled apart and reconstructed, some of them score big wins, and some of them don't seem to do much at all. But at a federal level, the equivalent work is done only by the Crime Commission, which focuses very narrowly on things like bikie gangs and mafia-style crime, and the Australian Federal Police, who are way beyond being able to deal with corruption at the sort of scale we're talking about in our sophisticated economy today. But every time it's been raised, the idea of a national anti-corruption body gets completely poo-pooed by most of our political leaders. Senator David Leyonhjelm is from the Liberal Democrat Party. He's one of the crossbench senators and joins me first this morning before we have a chat to the CFMEU, who have very much been in the firing line on this issue as well. Senator Leyonhjelm, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Glenn Lazarus and Nick Xenophon are both on the record, your colleagues in the Senate, saying that a national anti-corruption body is essential. What's your view?
Yeah, they're a bit vague when they talk about it. Senator John Madigan's also got similar views, and as does Dio Wang. But when you ask them what kind of corruption they're interested in, what sort of issues that they think a federal corruption body should tackle, you get very varied answers. There's no consistent view on it. And I guess to some of them, what they think is improper, or what I might think is improper, or other people might think is improper and unethical, they think is corruption. So it's a very confused debate at the moment, and I'm not sure it's going to go anywhere. The federal government's not that keen on pursuing this issue, at least not at the moment anyway.
And have you got a theory as to why?
Well, their argument is that there are already existing bodies to deal with corruption, and to a fair degree they're right. ASIC and APRA, for example, the Australian Tax Office, and as you mentioned, the Australian Crime Commission and the Australian Federal Police, their argument is that an additional body would be unnecessary. And in the absence of a clear idea of what kind of corruption we're talking about, I guess their arguments have some merit. You'd need to sort of identify, well, is this a systemic corruption that is not being dealt with in any other way, and does that therefore justify the creation of another body, or would you be better off giving additional powers to an existing body?
We've just learned in the last few days, courtesy of a Panamanian law firm, that 800 Australian individuals and businesses have some idea of why they need offshore accounts and secret tax affairs and the like. 800 Australians, there may be one or two of them amongst them who have a legitimate reason for needing a bank account in a place like Panama and a shelf company that doesn't pay tax and the like. But the gut feeling you get pretty much, surely, Senator, is that most of that's pretty dodgy. The head of the stock exchange has had to resign because of a bribery scandal in the firm he used to head up. We've got allegations, then very well based, of forged documents being used for imported chonky building materials, and on it goes. The Prime Minister yesterday wagged a finger at Westpac over some of the rorts and scandals in the banking sector, and you're telling us that, well, I'm not sure there's a need for anyone to do anything about this toxic corporate culture?
Well, how much of that is not being dealt with now, I guess, is the point, and to what extent
all of it?
Is that true? I mean, or all of those people who have offshore accounts in Panama avoiding tax.
Yes.
Now, avoiding tax is not illegal.
No.
Evading tax is illegal.
Yeah.
So, minimising tax is perfectly legitimate. In fact, it's recommended by the ATO. So,
reducing tax.
They use the word minimised. So, if it's not illegal, then what would an anti-corruption body do? I guess is the point. There are very many legitimate reasons for having an offshore bank account. Quite a lot of businesses have one. Indeed, my own business has one, a very minor one in New Zealand. So there are perfectly legitimate reasons. The problem is that what we're seeing is guilt by association. We have some people who are engaging in what would appear to be illegal activity, corrupt activity, using Panama bank accounts, and therefore the assumption is that everyone who's using those Panama bank accounts is also illegal or corrupt. I think we have to be a little careful about it. The other thing to bear in mind is that the tax office has profound powers now if they think that the tax revenue is not being properly paid, if they think that somebody is avoiding tax.
Senator, I think isn't the issue, though, that you and I could go to the Magistrates' Court in any suburban jurisdiction in all states of Australia today, and people will be jailed for trivial amounts of Centrelink overpayments or even sometimes fraud. They will be dealt with very harshly for minor infractions against the revenue, whilst vast sums of money by the wealthiest individuals in the country pass unremarked upon by the same authorities, and people have had a gutful of it.
Well, it's just an argument against capitalism, is it?
No, it's an argument against the excesses of capitalism.
And what are they? Are they illegal excesses or are they legal excesses?
They are probably illegal, but no one's even bothering to try to find out.
Well, I was just about to say to you, the tax office has the powers to say to you, OK, you're a very highly paid radio announcer. We think you're not paying your fair share of tax.
Yep.
We're going to levy on you $1 million in unpaid tax, plus a $10 million penalty.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen, but I have been audited and I was very happy to be audited. I found it extremely stressful because I had to justify every P and every Q and cross every T and dot every I, and it cost me about a couple of $1,000s by the time it was all gone through because I couldn't justify every single thing I'd ever claimed. But it was a great eye-opener, Senator. It was a great eye-opener, and I don't understand why it doesn't happen to people who have got multiple zeros after the amounts they owe the tax office compared to me.
It does happen to a fair degree. I listened to the tax commissioner at the Senate estimates hearings earlier this year, in which he explained the process of taking on some of these people. What they do is issue an assessment plus penalties, and then what the organisation, and big organisations are treated the same as small. In fact, bigger organisations have a rougher time than small ones. They then have to basically prove that the tax office has got it wrong. So the onus of proof is on the person assessed or the organisation assessed to prove that they have paid the right amount of tax and that the assessment issued by the tax office is not legitimate. So this is an enormous amount of power. I mean, the tax office basically can say everything that you own is owed to the tax office, and you have to prove that it's not. This is quite a profound power. Now, to suggest that there's no way of dealing with these with corrupt individuals and so forth is just overlooking the fact that there are quite serious powers already available. Now, they've got to be used, and perhaps your argument would be they might be used a little bit more widely. But the powers are there in most cases, and at least.
Thank you indeed for joining us this morning. It's certainly excited a lot of interest by text message and talkback, and I'll get to those in just a moment. That's Senator David Leyonhjelm from the Liberal Democrat Party. Well, very much in the